Welcome, everybody. It's a Wednesday, November 15th, and it's the 6th episode of the Techquanimity Podcast, where we talk about issues that are at the intersection of technology, mindfulness, and compassion. And I am Dr. Cynthia Phelps, and I'm the founder of Inner Ally, a company that helps you understand your own inner voice and use it as your superpower. And I'm here with my co-host, Mark Montalban.
Hi, everyone. You can check out what I do at mindfultext.com and check us out there. And today we're super excited to intro our guest, Kimberly King. And I'll share a little bit about her in her intro and her bio right now. So she's Kimberly King is a global impact entrepreneur and established thought leader in the fields of public-private partnerships, sustainability, technology for good, and collaborative innovation ecosystems. Her passion lies at the intersection of business, strategy, and social impact, creating groundbreaking marketing and financial models, which have generated more than $4 billion in revenue to date. Her diverse experience reflects 20 years as a multi-sector leader in multi-sector joint ventures, working with financial services, environmental and economic development agencies, communications, the future of work. And some of our clients and partners include American Express, Coca-Cola, AT&T, NBC, and she is now the CEO of HumanTec and director of the One Island Institute. She serves as a special projects consultant for the United Nations and a senior advisor to the Metaverse Fashion Council and the Global Urban Innovation Exchange and World Digital Weeks. She's a global champion of DEI and women and girls. Kimberly serves as an advisor to the International Women's Think Tank and an NGO representative to the UN Commission on Women. She's the co-founder of WIESD, Women in Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Sustainable Development, startup accelerator launched in Sweden and the US. And she's a founding partner of the Women's World Conference Alliance. She's an international speaker, media producer, co-author of CreditWise, MoneyWise, and The Power Team. She's an avid traveler and has worked in nearly 70 countries, and she's an honored recipient of the Eleanor Roosevelt Global Humanitarian Award. So we're very excited to bring on Kimberly to the stage here.
Welcome,
and just
Kimberly.
to share, welcome.
Thank you.
So just to mention also, we ran into a little bit of technical issues, and so we're hacking together a little bit of the mic situation here. So apologies ahead of time for that, but we seem to have some good audio for now, and we're just running with it as we must do. So just sharing that a little bit, and welcome.
It's nice to be with you guys. And next time I'll send you a shorter form.
So one of the first questions we wanted to ask you, Kimberly, thanks again for joining us, is around this topic of what is your why? And we know Simon Sinek talks about the importance of establishing your why and understanding deeply why you are passionate and interested in your work. And so we'd love to hear about how you got into your work and what motivates you to continue with the great work that you're doing, particularly with Technology for Good and all these great initiatives that you're working on.
Well, again, thank you for the invitation, first of all, Mark and Cynthia. I met you, Mark, years ago, and a synchronistic kind of meeting. And we immediately wanted to take the conversation sort of more this direction. So I knew from the beginning that we're both passionate about impact, and that things like compassion and empathy and humanity are much more than just words. They really are our understanding. I'll speak now for myself, but I wanted to recognize that I honor that in you, is that I think that maybe if we even liken it to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that eventually you're going to figure out that there's more to life than food and shelter and ego identity, that it actually is both your great calling and your responsibility, but your great privilege to discover your own gifts, your own capacities and contribution, and bring them to the collective for our exchange of greater good. So I didn't invent that why. I just feel that my journey helped me recognize the great why, and that we are all in that discovery and in that co-creation together. And the more I lean into it, the richer my life becomes, the richer my relationships. So in a way, it's very selfish. The more you do that, the better your life is.
What a beautiful response to that. That just makes me feel good on the inside. Well, I'm very interested in what you're doing. You have Tech for Good as one of your taglines on LinkedIn, and that you're into humane tech. And so tell us a story about what you're doing in that area.
Well, because the world at large, including technology, is sort of fractaled, if you will. I'm in AR for good, AI for good, VR for good, general tech for good, business for good, sustainability. All of that goes back to the same way I answered the why. It doesn't matter, first of all, which door you enter. If this is your intention, it's going to bring you back to your value system. So that this is really a conversation both about your consciousness, your intention, your value system, and your contribution, and how you do that individually, and then how that intersects with one another. So I frankly didn't think of myself as being in technology for a very long time. I was the last to know that I was also in technology because, for instance, my very first company was a solar company. Now, I would have told you that I was in sustainability, energy, conservation, things like that. But solar is a technology. And again, the more I understood and looked back at my own journey, each time I made a career move, there was a common denominator of serving the greater good and finding out what that intersection looked like, and that there was some form of technology that was enabling our connection, that was accelerating our ability to scale. And that became less of an incidental and more of an intention along with me to really pay attention. As I recall in our conversation earlier, Mark, I believe technology is an expression of the tools of our time. Man and other species, apes, but we'll go with man and woman, are tool makers. We don't like the limit of our own capacity, so we create extensions of ourselves, a way to do something better, a way to do something faster, a way to do something more. Technology are the hammers and the saws and the toolbox of our generation and beyond. It has been for a long time, but it's never been so clear, I think, that technology is necessary if we are in a race against time to solve real world problems, because we can't take as long to fix things as we took to create them. I also know that technologies of all kinds can be used for anything. They are neither good nor bad. They can be used to create or destroy. I take very seriously that the technologies and the tools in our hand today can do both. And so I am not an advocate for tech's sake. So the Tech for Good line is because it's a way to say consciously, we are responsible for what we do with these tools, and no one else is coming but us to decide and to put those into play. I do that in HumanTec and in every other avenue that I work in all the time. I'm less about which technology and more about why technology and what is our intention and our outcome. I counsel the business leader more than I tinker with their technology platform. I want their strategy, their intention, and their integration with their team. If that is in alignment, technology will be used for good, and we'll know why we're doing what we're doing. I hope that makes some sense.
Very much. Can you share an example of a time where you helped a team align in a way that was out of alignment, just to share with our audience maybe an example of a way that they could start to implement something with their teams or as a business leader?
Yeah. I would say that in multiple scenarios, when we were looking at using marketing technology tools to reach more prospects and end users, what I find commonly is that without the pause for purpose, that entrepreneurs, small businesses, and large businesses will be guided purely by the math. So we'll be looking at the X's and O's, the data, the big data return, and how to reach the most people. These discussions, if they are driven by data alone, by dollars alone, by technology alone, they will do that without any conscientiousness about privacy, about inclusivity, about bias in the assumptions, about conflict between where their well-being and the company's profit meets. You're allowed to do it. It's legal to optimize only dollars. It's legal to optimize only data, but it is not responsible to do that. And I help companies dig deeper and maybe zoom out before they zoom in so much. When you zoom out, you can discover that there are strategies that can honor mutual good, can actually engender more loyalty from your prospects and future customers because you did it a better way. And you don't lose business. You generate more business, and you generate more trust. And trust is the ultimate currency. So a big part of what I do with companies is convince them to pause, convince them to zoom out, and convince us to run some scenario planning with more intentions and more checks and balances, and prove to them that they can, in fact, achieve their business goals and do it in a way that makes them what I call a noble brand, not just a leading brand, but a noble brand, because they are choosing to do business a better way. And you make money doing it.
That sounds like a win-win to me. And what I feel like you just described is moving away from this short-term cycle of the fastest path to revenue, which has clearly gotten us in trouble. Like, particularly you can see it with the social media companies. And just thinking about short-term revenue, you really can cause harm in the long term. And a few interviews back, we had Adeo Resi on here, entrepreneur and founder and an impact investor, and he created a code of ethics for impact investors. And I'm really curious about what you think about like a potential code of ethics for technology development, and to guide us into this future where the tech is being integrated at a speed in which we've never seen before.
It's essential. Now, whether or not we can enforce it, that's different. That's why we have to enroll, because no one owns the internet. And we don't have, no matter how many police we put on the job, we can't police all the actors in the play. So enlightened self-interest is my strategy of choice. That I don't expect business leaders to lose money or lose the race that they're in order to do the right thing. I don't mind helping them understand that if you pollute the planet or undermine human dignity, privacy, and certain fundamental ethics, you cheat to win. That is not a win. And that's why I think universal codes of ethics help us raise the bar on what are the rules for engagement and what does a real win look like, not a cheat to win. And also, when you do the zoom out that I described, you can suspend the fear of loss, because fear of loss and greed drives the short-term thinking, some blind spots, but some of it is fear that in scarcity. There's not enough. That is a mindset, not a fact. That is not a fact. And I search for leaders who innately know that in their heart, in their own humanity, but they have to figure out how to make that in alignment in their business, even though it may be counterintuitive to the way they've been taught to do business or the way their peers do business. But that's what makes you a leading brand and a noble brand today and into the future, is you have that code for mutual good. And there's a lot of us who think this way. We used to be a small fringe group. This is the thinking of the enlightened leadership of our country and the world. We're gaining because we have now that data to prove our point. It used to be a philosophy. Now you can prove that whether it's diversity and inclusivity with women on boards, people of color on boards of different ages and ethnicities that used to be seen as a nice thing to do. Now, any company worth its salt understands that that is a leadership strategy. It is the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do. That's true most of the time. You just have to suspend the automatic thinking and copying your peers or the way we used to do it, and ask yourself a few new questions, and then use these technologies to give you the edge a good way. This is not silly violin playing. This is very smart business. Winners think this way. And I believe we are not that far away from being able to have the public opinion be in agreement that only losers think the other way. Only losers act the other way. We are now taking the lead in proving that we can do people, planet, profit, and purpose, and it all works together.
You know, I feel like we've never been in a time in which the popular culture has like such a good understanding of systems and how things work and how things are broken, and that really gives me some hope. And I love the way you described it as enlightened leadership, and really the model is like this attraction model. Like, you want to be a part of this. You want to be a part of the way business works for the future, where we create a world that serves everyone.
Right. Well, I'm sure you and most of the listeners are very aware that as when you hear studies on the different demographics, whatever they call, the boomer, the Gen X, the Gen Y, the millennial, all those names that they let. I don't love all those labels, but what I do like from the findings that I think dovetail to everything is in its right time coming into alignment is that the millennials and beyond coming, they not only wanted more, they want money, they want lifestyle, but they will choose a brand where they feel that they matter, and that the company's mission matters, and that how the company does business matters. It is now no longer, that's a luxury if you can find it. It's a demand of the workforce of the future. Those are very real drivers to enforce transparency, to make leaders walk their talk or lose their talent. I love that. I love that, because that's actually the way you change culture. Is you don't make rules, you raise the bar. And then you insist upon that bar from a human ethics standpoint. We have the power to change those rules. We're the one making the rules.
It seems to be evident as well, right? We're seeing, well, people have been talking about the Great Resignation for a couple of years now, and it's clear that the values of certain businesses are repelling people from wanting to work in organizations that don't align with values that are for the greater good. So I definitely think that the people will listen to this trend, and it's clear that it's better for the world and better for business, at least from my perspective. And so, Kimberly, you talk about, or there's a label on your LinkedIn about being on with the Top 100 Women of the Future initiative. Can you talk a little bit about that initiative and your relation to it?
Sure. The I want to make sure I get the name of the sponsoring organizations right, but I was contacted, I guess in the last year, that there was an initiative by a set of partners and a publishing company that wanted to both recognize women in leadership and women in Web3 leadership. They wanted to both acknowledge and advance this conversation about inclusion, empowerment, technology, and leading into the future. They felt that those intersections mattered. So they were compiling the first list. There's more being created of the top 100 women of the future in tech. And just as I mentioned earlier, as someone who still has never thought of myself as a technologist, I was surprised and honored that they reached out. But I believe the reason why someone like myself and others are included in this compilation is because they too are trying to put the emphasis on what is our vision for the future. What is our intention and our mission? How are we behaving as leaders? Because technology will continue to change and evolve. We can exhaust today talking about AR, VR, AI. I've been in this long enough that it's sort of like, I would liken it to cassette tapes, to CDs, DVDs, streaming. The form of delivery will continue to evolve. That which is more rooted is, how are we making our decisions? Where are we headed? What values do we bring to our discernment and to our decision-making process? That is the deeper, richer, and more important leadership vein. Technology helps us get where we decide we want to go, faster, better, and we keep tinkering with it. That's why this relationship is not humanity or technology. It is humanity using technology. For what? That's up to us. And with HumanTec, our tagline is touch the future, because we do, but I have a subtext that says humanity plus technology equals impact. Add wisely.
Ooh, I love that. Well, there's so many things on your resume that fascinate me, Kimberly, but one of them is that you've done some work with Deepak Chopra. Would you like to talk a little about that?
Yeah, it's been early on in my, I guess it'd be maybe mid-career, I would say. But after I had started and built a couple of companies, and again, I'll make a reference to maybe it's a Maslow's hierarchy thing, that you have success. I've achieved some life goals that you're expected to as an adult. So I have some successes under my belt. I own a home. I have a loving partner. Unless you just rinse and repeat that you think all there is more money, another car, another house. Nothing wrong with that, I guess, but nothing right about it either. I really found myself looking at, is this all there is? what is my real purpose? And I began my spiritual journey, which I had always considered myself a spiritual person. But I think that I had maybe the maturity and the freedom, although you shouldn't wait until you build companies to do this. But the bottom line is that became the driving question of my life. That what is my purpose? What is our purpose? What is all of this in the peripheral about? And that led me on a magic carpet ride that I am still on today. I think you release the magic in your life when you dare to open the what if, what now, what's possible between you and the universe, if it's okay to say that in a business context that we're saying. But I believe my question was earnest. And that saying about when the student is ready, the teacher will come. The student was super ready, because when I put that out there in earnest, no holds barred, I began to be approached and have doors open that I knew for sure I didn't knock on those doors. Those doors opened to me. I had to say yes. First of all, I had to answer the call of the hero's journey. You have to say yes to the call. Then, when the door opens, you have to have the courage to go into the unknown and ask those new questions and receive that new understanding. All I can tell you is that Deepak Chopra is one of the teachers who entered my life soon after I put that invitation, generic invitation, out there. And I had read his work, but I didn't know him. But I met him through the TED conferences. There's a backstory that I shared with Mark that I won't backpedal now, but suffice to say that I entered the TED community when it was still a private community. TEDx didn't exist yet, and I was initiated in an incredible way. That door opening to this extraordinary private community led me to meet many amazing business leaders and organizational leaders and human beings. Deepak Chopra was one of them. And we immediately had such chemistry and energy around this intersection, not only with spiritual, but with business and with technology. I didn't expect it, but because I expressed those things, he immediately knew that things he was working on would be of interest to me. He invited me as his guest to his facilities in Southern California. And one of our early conversations was around this role that technology was playing in mindfulness, in meditation. I began to experience these early iterations of tools where we're looking at a screen and we are slowing our heart rate down. We are calming, we are doing our breathing, but we are training our visualization. We are engaging with our own biofeedback, that I can watch on a screen what is happening in my body, what is happening in my mind, what is happening in my heart. Technology was dancing with that, informing me faster. I think that experience was really important early on for me to see that technology can be our friend and should be, and we should use it to better ourselves, because our better selves will make better decisions and be better human beings with one another. I never put all that together before.
One of the other things that I saw on your resume is that you're the co-founder of the Women in Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Sustainable Development. That sounds amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with that?
Yes, my partner, an amazing woman, I wish I could snap my fingers and add to our conversation, is Brazilian by birth. Her name is Telma Gomez. And Telma is a force of nature in every way, and very much she's a Reiki healer. So this conversation around mindfulness is her passion as well. But Telma is also very passionate about sustainability. And she moved to Sweden to get her master's in strategic leadership for sustainable development. So she had an opportunity to move from Brazil to Sweden, which is an unlikely move. She brought her young son and husband with her. And once she was in Sweden, she loved it, even though it was cold. I'm not sure she loved cold, but she loved the culture. She knew that it was consistent and congruent with her principles of sustainability. There was much more support there. And, but now she needed a way to have a job or create. And she learned through another amazing ally and amigo, Katarina Rosenquist, that Sweden was looking at entrepreneurship for women in particular. They wanted more women to start companies, to think more entrepreneurially, and they wanted to increase the ratio of engagement. And they wanted also it to be consistent with sustainability principles. Telma brought those things together. She knew that I had worked with women entrepreneurs and sustainability for a long time, and I had some programs. So frankly, I told her we sound like a joke. A Brazilian woman and an American woman end up in Sweden, and they launch an incubator and accelerator for female entrepreneurs who want to start conscious companies that do the fourfold process of people, planet, profit, and purpose. So, and I found that women came, we had more than enough interest to sustain the program. The EU funded it, part of it, the Swedish government, and allowed us to begin to develop this model. That we are still looking at how we can take that to scale. There's been interest around the world in that. But while I like to start companies and help entrepreneurs start companies, I am frankly only interested in people who want to start conscious companies. And that means no harm to the planet, or the best that we can find is our way. Do the right thing for people inside and outside that company. Maximize your profit and use technology to do it in smart ways, and be guided by your purpose. And we were blessed to have a technology institute in Sweden be our sponsor. So we got to have every piece of that puzzle in perfect alignment to begin to incubate. How do we help people think that way and build companies that think that way?
It's so wonderful. I feel like there is this like burgeoning of these types of programs out there. My company, Inner Ally, went through a program called Transformative Tech, where even though my intentions were about bringing more compassion into the world and to the self, that process gave me a structure to be able to apply conscious leadership and value systems to my own company that I really hadn't done fully. And so I just love what you're doing in the world with that work.
Well, it's exciting and inspiring to get to be in that conversation and hear the creative things other people are doing and coming up with. I gave myself a great gift by being in that conversation, very much like I am today. It is a gift to find others like ourselves who care about this and recognize we have the ability to change the world and lead ourselves to a better way together.
I love that. Definitely am inspired, and gives me great hope to see entrepreneurs like us coming together. Kimberly, can you share a bit about your work with the various divisions with the UN?
Yes, I have had a relationship with the UN for around 20 years now. In fact, most of the answers I'll give you will have a 20-year plus tag, which is unbelievable when I say it even to myself. But I started with the UN actually in the early days of HIV. We didn't, something was happening around the world that we were hearing about, but we didn't quite know. But, and there was a lot of sickness and death in Africa. And I was invited to be part of a media education initiative to try and bring some awareness. We were raising funds and getting engagement. So I entered through the door of, it doesn't exist the same anymore as they restructure, but it was called the UNFPA. It dealt with women and children around the world. And through our efforts of storytelling and media, I saw, again, using the technology of film, streaming, early streaming, and things like that, we could engage the world in a conversation and be direct. It wasn't just a snippet from the news. We could go and put our camera there and come back and show you what's real, help you understand what role you could play here in this country. But it was so, again, it sounds altruistic, but actually it's gloriously selfish, because nothing feels better than engaging in work that has meaning, that it's very addictive. I came home from my first assignments, frankly, unable to do business as usual anymore, that it changed my priorities. I knew that my business acumen could serve every project I did, but I made business the servant, not the leader. And I really became a servant leader, disciple, understanding that that is what real leaders look like. That's what real leadership looks like. And those early forays into my work with the UN and more philanthropic made it real for me that there's a hurting world in our backyard and around the world. And we know things that can help. We have things that can help, but the exchange you get back will change your life. You think you're there to change their life. I think they're there to change your life too.
Beautifully said. Well, we're coming to the end of our interview here, but we always like to ask people, you told us a little bit about your journey, how it began into the world of mindfulness and compassion and looking for enlightenment, perhaps. And do you have any, would you like to share any personal practice to stay on that path?
Well, I guess my practices are pretty simple. in that I think that it is about creating, starting and ending your day, first of all, with intention, with valuing your own peace of mind and your own centeredness enough to make space in your morning, in your night, and at intervals to breathe, to quiet your mind, to remind yourself of what your why is, or simply just to be in stillness. You can add to that, but I don't think you can subtract from that. I think the foundation is intention, presence, and consistency. And that if you meet that promise with yourself, what you'll find is a spaciousness that will inform your path. You just have to be still enough to let it whisper back.
Beautiful. You know, we called this podcast the Techquanimity Podcast because we knew going into the future, people would need to figure out how to balance the fast-pacedness and challenges of technology that we're living in now and in the future with some of these contemplative practices. And that's it's a very simple practice that you described, but so powerful. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us today. Mark, do you have any last questions or comments for Kimberly?
Yeah, this was amazing. I'm just thinking about all the different things we discussed. I very much like the practice that you shared, and I'm looking forward to testing that out and hopefully potentially integrating that into my own daily routine. I definitely see the value in the process of setting an intention and doing that before bed. It becomes far too easy to just fall asleep to shows. And I remember a few years ago, my wife and I were getting into like zombie movies, and I just noticed ourselves just falling asleep to the sounds of zombie noises. Just, definitely not ideal, but it's the reality that we live in today. There's just so much different influences that everybody's going through. And I really like this great reminder of really setting that intention for how you want to wake up, what you want to accomplish, and so on.
That would keep me awake.
Well, Kimberly, it's been just an absolute joy to get to know you a little bit better. And thank you so much for coming on to the Techquanimity Podcast today.
I look forward
Thank you, Kimberly.
for invitation, and I look forward to more conversations on and off screen. You guys are doing amazing, important work.
Well, thank you.
Me too. You all the
best. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Wow, what a fantastic conversation that was. I love the I love the conscious leadership stuff that she was talking about. It makes me feel so heartened that we're going in the right direction as a society, because so often what we hear from the popular media is the complete opposite. And so I love hearing these groups of people and individuals who are really thinking carefully about their own values, the types of vision that we need to have for our planet, and to hold each other in a compassionate way. So that was really fun.
Yeah, I recently went through a values exercise with my co-founder, and we just solidified our top 5 values, actually. And it was a great exercise. And just to share a little bit of that process, there's a list of like maybe 200 values. And the exercise is to categorize the top values that you like into 4 categories. There's values that you always want to embody, values that you sometimes want to embody, rarely, and never. And so, they're in values exercises, it's typical to just choose the ones that you like. But I particularly liked how it was mandatory to choose values that you never want to show. And this is an ongoing process, of course, and I'll just share one of the values that we chose that we never want to share externally as a brand and as a team. And maybe we can gather feedback from people that comment, or yourself, Kimberly, or not Kimberly, Cynthia, sorry. One of them was fearlessness. And this is something that we went a little bit back and forth on, but the value of fearlessness, it could be considered as destructive if let loose, for example. So that was one of the values that we put in the never category. Of course, I didn't want to put anything in the never category, but we had to choose something. And so just sharing a little bit about that. Is there a value that you particularly align with, Cynthia, that you'd like to share?
It has shifted over the years for me. As I have, gained experience and age, and compassion, of course, is always a very top value for me. But one of the things that has shifted more to the top for me is an idea of integrity. And the way that I define that is not just, me being authentic, but it's also this idea that I'm in the circle of care. And so I really want to do good with my business. It's designed to help people lower their own suffering, right? And to get what they want out of life. But I have to hold myself in that same circle. And so that's a shift that I've made over the years. And what that does for me is it helps to keep me from completely burning out, and to remind myself that I have to do the work to take care of myself before I can be effective in taking care of others.
Yes, very important reminders. So before we wrap up, do you want to share a little bit about what you've been up to with Inner Ally?
Sure. Well, we just got done with our Black Mountain retreat called The Journey Within, and it was really amazing. We had an age range from age 20 to 94. We have a variety of nationalities, a variety of spiritual philosophies, and it was just so heartening to create this curriculum that took people from visioning into working with obstacles and how to work with your own needs, to kind of having a plan for 2024 and who you want to be and how you want to show up. And it just created this space where people bonded. It was only a 2-day retreat. And so it really worked out well. And now I'm getting ready to teach the habit class, which is going to be Release the Habit in January. Very much looking forward to that. And that is another life-changing experience.
Very cool.
How about you? What's going on with your company?
Yeah, so at Mindful Text, we recently got into the UC Berkeley Skydeck Accelerator, into one of their programs. And in this last batch, 2,500 companies applied, and we were in the top 90 that got accepted. And they've added about 70 events to myself and my co-founder's calendar over the next 3 months. And so things are a little bit more hectic, but in a good way. And what we're doing essentially right now is reforming the foundation of our business. And part of that was going through this values exercise. And I just recently added a co-founder to my team, Mick Giliberti. and he's super awesome. And we're both basically aligning in our values so that, very much as we talk externally with customers and partners and team, that we both very much align with our values. And I can share the first version of those values. And the first one is mindful and calm. Of course, we're a mindfulness company, and we both very much want to talk the talk and walk the walk. And effectiveness is the second value. Accountability and excellence is our third value. Candor is the fourth, and ethical, of course, is the fifth. And so, just sharing before we actually integrate that into our brand right now, those are our values that we've aligned on. There might be some changes, but it's a great exercise, and I definitely recommend other leaders and business leaders, even if it's just yourself and you want to get to know yourself better, just look at all the different values that are out there on the internet and maybe gather your top 5. And it's a great exercise to get to know yourself a little bit better and try to integrate that into how you operate.
Well, that sounds amazing. And congratulations for being accepted into that accelerator. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a great experience so far.
Well, what a great episode. And I'm so happy. If you're still listening, thank you so much for tuning in to the Techquanimity Podcast. And you can find us on our website, techquanimitypodcast.com, or you can find us on Spotify or all the other places that you can listen to podcasts.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.